Laura's parents vowed to find a cure for the polio that had attacked her. After a long and fruitless struggle, a doctor in Chitovu Hospital, Masaka District, presented the truth to Laura Kanushu's parents. He said finding a cure to her disability was a pipe dream. As they made their way back home to Kiruhura District, Laura's mother made a painful confession that she would give anything to correct her child's deformity.
How are you, Laura?
Good, how are you, Justine?
I'm well. Tell us about your life growing up.
I am the last born of 12 kids. 9 girls and then 3 boys.
Okay.
For more years than she could remember, Laura's family had unchanging support and love towards her. Laura's parents and family did all they could to give Laura a beautiful childhood. She recalls having been cherished by her family, which she refers to as her backbone.
I got my disability when I was 2.5 years.
You were not born?
No. I got polio when I was 2.5 years. And I'm told at that time, the vaccines were there. But I think they were kind of faulty, and because I was immunized. But I still got polio at that age.
Did you feel loved as a child?
I did feel loved, unlike most people with disabilities that I have spoken to. I think being the fact that I was the last born at home and the fact that I had this disability, I think I was given more attention at home than any other sister of mine or brother of mine. All the attention was on me, so I think I was really loved. And they never made me feel like, you know, there's something wrong with you. Nothing like that. And I remember if anybody did not do for me what I wanted, they would be beaten up. So my sisters actually have lots of stories about how they suffered because of me. If I wanted to do anything that I couldn't, it's like they had the obligation to do it for me. And that was coming from my parents.
Alongside the zeal of taking care of Laura came the guilt of shortchanging their other children. For Laura's parents, it was Laura first in every sense of the word.
Of course, there are so many kids, and usually finances come in, and my sisters, of course, were all older than me, and they were in higher classes. But the principle at home was that Laura goes to school first. If you guys have to wait and not report on the reporting day, that's not a problem. There was no time when I was ever chased from school for not paying school fees. My sisters were, because at times they would send them maybe with half school fees. But then for me, everything had to be covered. My school fees, my pocket money, everything had to be covered before other children were touched.
Some people believe that a couple with a disabled child becomes disabled too, but Laura's parents defied this belief. Their relationship remained intact despite the thunderstorm that came along with Laura's disability.
She never gave me reason to think I was different from any other child. And I mean, if you spoke to any of my family members, they'll tell you Laura has the highest level of esteem that we don't even have, those of us that are not disabled. And that's because my mom had to rub it in everybody's face that, you know, you don't come near this girl. Like how people would refer to me in my village, how is your disabled girl doing? And she'll tell them, her name is not the disabled girl. She has a name, and her name is Laura. You know, she would not allow anybody to say, in my language, you'd say, Omana wa chimugariyo. Mhara wa chimugariyo. And she would say, Izinariye tu wa chimuga. Izinariye Laura. And I would prefer that you call her as such. But of course, the relatives, the friends who would look at me at that time, I was young, my mom was struggling with me, putting me on the back, taking me to hospital. I mean, they're all saying, what is her case? She already has 8 girls. I mean, she already has a problem having girls at home. And then she's also struggling with this one who is disabled. What's her case? She could even just leave her at home to stay there. Why must she even go to school? She will tell me when we're going to school and say, I am sending you to school and I want you to do your best to disprove everybody who thinks you're nothing. When I was born and after I got polio, one woman walked to her and told her, why do you need this kid? You already have 8 girls. and you already have, I mean, your in-laws coming to say your husband should take another wife because you're not having boys. And now you have a child that is disabled. What the hell do you want? I mean, you already have enough. If she was a boy, maybe you would keep her. But she's a girl and she's disabled. Do something and let her die. She told me this story. And so many other things. And you know, because of my disability, my mom was like in the center of everything. She made sure I went to school.
Laura's mother feared for her little girl. Will she ever hold down a job, have a family and live by herself? Laura's mother wondered. Laura's parents agreed that a good education was the only thing that could counter these fears.
I started school when I was about 5 years old. Unlike my siblings who started a bit earlier. So I went to that school in Liantonde, and I studied there from what would be like kindergarten and then up to about primary 2. And then up to about primary 2. My dad would ride me on a bicycle from my home to the school and again pick me up. In P2, they introduced a boarding section, and then my dad put me into a boarding school.
Tell us about boarding school.
When I went to that boarding school, I went with one of my elder sisters who was like in P6. And her duty was just to take care of me, assist me to go to the bathroom, make sure she takes my books to class. So I think every school I went to, a boarding school, I went with one of my sisters. It was like a rule at home that I would be in the same school with one of my sisters.
Laura is beautiful with a very honest and contagious smile. I kept smiling along with her. But every morning as a little girl, she woke up to the same chilling reality, her disability. How she put up in school is a thrilling fact.
Were you able to live in school comfortably like any other child?
Actually, boarding school was a very big problem for me. The kind of toilets that were there were pit latrines. And at that time, it was very difficult for me to use the pit latrine. And you know how boarding schools can be, the bathrooms are always dirty and you know, it was very complicated for me.
So, I mean, how did you handle it?
What my sister would do was would wait for that darkness to come. And then maybe I shower from somewhere, not in the general bathrooms, because the bathrooms were really, really horrible, dirty and messed up. So I wouldn't bathe in those kinds of bathrooms. I would bathe like from somewhere in a shed, you know, where there's small darkness, then you go there and bathe. But of course, the toilet, you struggle.
The unvarnished truth based on Laura's experiences is that there is some difficulty in having a disability for both the disabled child and their family. Sacrifices for the good of Laura's life had to be made by different family members.
As you go to that level where kids are getting older, they're starting to learn about ABCD, were you segregated in any way?
Shimon was really a good school, and I loved it. And they had this special section for children who had intellectual disabilities. They would not like be in the same class with the rest of us, but they would mix with us maybe at break time, lunch time. And of course, then you realize, then I began to realize that, you know, kids are looking at you like you're different from them. Or they would say, hey, what's wrong with her? Why is she walking like that? You know, that kind of thing. So I began to feel that, oh, so I'm really, really different from the rest of the kids. But for the teachers, well, I never sensed anything like that maybe they were treating me differently. But of course, the kids, you know, you'd want to join them. Maybe they're playing and they think, oh, no, Laura, you can't do this. Laura, you can't manage this. And of course, I began to feel that, you know, they're not, now I'm a bit different. So I don't have to, I can't play this game, I can't do this. And that feeling started coming. I had these friends of mine, one of them was our neighbor, never used to pick her. So she used to walk home. So I didn't like the idea of picking me in the car. I wanted to walk with other kids home. And this girl, they were our immediate neighbors. So I would see her every morning passing by our gate, and she was going to the same school with me and we're in the same class. So I began to walk with her to school. So my sister used to say, hey, you're going to get an accident, they'll knock you down, all that kind of thing. But then I said, no, I can manage the distance. And then now they plan to take me back to boarding school again.
Tell us about that little bond with your friend.
Her name is Stella Amongi. I still remember her name very well. I still want to find her. I mean, if I could see her today, I really, really want to find her, because then she began to say, she would come to my gate, she would come earlier and wait for me, carry for me my bag, walk to school, because then I told my sister, no more cars, I'm going to be walking to school and coming back home. So carry for me my bag, walk together to school, and again come back together home. She'd walk at my pace. To school and back, to school and back. I moved to boarding school in a school called Kisubi Girls School. It was a fair school. It was actually better than the other first boarding school that I went to, because they had like a section for children who had disabilities, and this time disabilities that were similar to mine. So it was easier for me to get in. We had all the special facilities. We had a special dormitory that had an accessible bathroom and a toilet. The dormitory had ramps and rails, and the bathrooms, there were about 2-3 bathrooms. Bathing chairs already set there. If you need a bathing chair, you didn't have to carry it from home. You'd actually find it there in school. And then all the classes had those ramps.
What did you go for secondary school?
I was actually the best student in my year in Kisubi.
How did that happen?
Because of the rules, classes would end like at 4, and then you'd have to bathe, and the bell was, my God, those rules were just and then you'd have to go for prep whether you wanted it or not. But I passed highly, and in my year I was the best.
There simply was not enough time and attention to go around. Each of Laura's family members had their own struggles. Laura's needs were a bottomless pit. At some point, when they had given all they could, Laura had to take over the front line of her own battle in her life.
So my mom decides, of course I think together with my entire family, that I go to Brain Trust. And so I go to Brain Trust, and Brain Trust was just, it was not something that I expected. The girls' toilet had a stair this level, because even the other people who are not disabled would just jump off too. And then again, it was not something that I could even try to use. And then on the other hand was the boys' toilet, which had a ladder, but I could fight with. So for me, my whole entire life in Brain Trust, I was using the boys' toilet. And I tried to complain, of course. I tried to complain and tell my mom, everybody, my school is bad, I can't. And they told me, you just need to focus on your education, because we're not sure we're going to find a secondary school that is going to suit your needs. You just have to concentrate on studying, and you have to fight with the environment. And guess what? By this time, most of my sisters were done with school. I had no choice. And because my mom had told me, you have no choice. The only choice you have is to study.
Were your grades as good as they were, because you came in with really good grades?
Yeah.
Did you keep that up?
I think I kept my grades up, because that school students were not serious. It was a school where there were no rules. You'd move out of the gate as and when you wanted, come back. Boys would come to the girls' dormitories. It was a weird school. So I think because there were no kids that were really serious with their books, I was still the best, but not with the best mark. After O level, I thought I should work hard and pass and go to Namagunga at least for HSC. That didn't happen because I didn't pass well in my S4. So, but I was really bitter about that school. Every time I came home for the weekend, I told my sister, I don't like that school, I hate that school. It's a school of bayaye, it's a school of all sorts of things. And I told her, because that school was so rowdy that students would get out of school at night to go dancing, and they'd jump over the wall. So I would be left in the dormitory alone, practically alone, because all the students would just jump over the wall and go out dancing. And then I'd stay in that dormitory, and it was a big whole dormitory. My sisters just had to tell me, you know, you have to feel like you're a normal child, like you're just like any of us. The environment is bad, you have to find a way of dealing with it, because we can't build schools for you.
So where did they take you then?
So then I finished HSC. My grades were good in Amirembe. Because I passed on government scholarship, I got 24 points.
It is a very, very deep story. I don't know how she manages to get those grades going, but she should be a very, very gifted girl upstairs. We're going to be back with Laura's story after the break. What happened next after those good grades after S6, and how does she get to be a very good lawyer today, a wife, a mother,